Okay, so I wasn't going. I found this comment because usually I'm like, I've already scheduled my post. I did technically uploaded it yesterday, but scheduled it for the day. But I found this and I was like, Joe, what? Let's talk about it. First of all, I kind of expected the reason why they made this is because of the movie. Even though I've heard it's mixed review. Again, I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to talk about being like it's good, it's bad. All I can say is people have been talking about it, and people said it's not that good. So I'm not going to do too much about it because I don't know too much about it. So can't really do that in a fair way. So, but I am going to point out I kind of see that the movie did good. Do a documentary. I also haven't seen Neverland, Going to Neverland, the other documentary that I do know does exist. And again, vice versa, I'm not going to talk about how good that documentary is. I haven't actually found it. If you can tell me, like, where to find it, because I know it was, like, heavily shut down. It was a thing, and then it disappeared. Because I feel like it's supposedly, while this one does a little bit of a nuance, not nuance, because legitimately there are certain aspects that I think was very confusing. The reason why I thought this was interesting was because of how certain people talked about how they were, like, one of the things that a lot of people did was some people into the early parts were like, oh, I saw these stories, and then the defense was like, oh yeah, but you sold the stories to the tabloid, which, okay, fair. That doesn't sound the best. I would also like to point out, like other people have pointed out in the documentary, that was standard practice. So I feel like that's unfair. But you also get some people like Macaulay Culkin and a couple of actors, supposedly, because I don't know if you said the documentary of Neverland was like, or Michael Jackson, The Verdict, this one was lying. So I just want to make it clear. So I'm just going to say this on what they say, what the documentary says. And the reason why I find this interesting is because is Michael Jackson a very unusual character? Yes. Yes, I can't say that enough. At the very least, we know through one of them talking about it that he at least slept just sleeping in the bed with children. And sure, if you're just sleeping, nothing sexual or that, that's not illegal. I just feel like there's certain questionable aspects. But I'm not going to go with what actually happened because at the end of the day, he was convicted, not guilty, which is the whole thing that happened, which is the whole thing of this trial. The reason why I find it interesting, it, at the very least, it makes the whole situation seem absolutely bizarre. Not only with Michael Jackson and the whole situation with that, and everything involved of what, like, even if it never happened, what actually was happening. But the one thing which I wanted to point out, and I kind of saw as like, what the was the whole thing with the painkillers? Assuming he was actively in pain and actually in pain, that sounds effed up. Like, fair, you're dealing with someone who's at least being accused of things being wrong. But if you're on painkillers and in pain, that sounds horrible to say. That's why it's interesting. Now, all of this said, long story short, he's a kind of an odd character. I also do want to take in the fact that this is not an excuse, but more, if you understand it, I feel like you understand some of his actions. If you look at the childhood Michael Jackson had, hell, that was bad. But I feel like overall, a lot of people have pointed out, and you can't even use that as an excuse, like I said. It's just one of the things of because of the childhood and the controlling parents. Yeah, that doesn't usually end well. Again, I saw it because it was something about a verdict. It would bring more information for me on the trial. Also, if there's any specific things that either one of the documentaries of like going to Neverland or Michael Jackson the verdict that are incorrect, also not actually no both because it's about to be like it's documentary. It's about to be like oh one spoiler. It's like it's history. It's not meant to be. Well, it's meant to. I know documentaries also do have a hinge of lying. One of the things I did that I sort of, I think, watched for part of my media, GCSE, by the way, was bowling. I don't know if it was GCSE or like BTEC. Because one of it was like me watching Bowling for Columbine, which does also have a reputation for having not the most accurate information. I just understand that a documentary can straight up lie to you. That is a thing, is known, they can do that. Should they is another story entirely, but that's besides the point. Should they? No. They should honestly tell you the truth because that's what you assume documentaries are. But the fact that you have several like media things, I think Film Theory talked about this. You have several film theory, you have several like documentary like short films, and they talk about persuasive arguments rather than truthful facts. Kind of shows that you can still make a documentary while not being 100% accurate. Hence why mockumentaries, or basically mock documentaries, are a thing, and so technically can be classed as documentaries. That or they're kind of doing that documentary style. Besides the point. Overall, with the series, at least the one that I did watch, I haven't seen Going to Neverland again. I thought it was interesting because of how they told it, bringing up the facts. Obviously, like you pointed out, it could be a bit. There could be some parts of it that is inaccurate. Also, I don't know if that's what you meant, but yeah, overall, I do think it's good. I still stand by that. I think it's an interesting way of looking at it. I probably should look into like which parts are true because I'm actually really interested in anything. But overall, I do like it. Would I want to know more? Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch Going to Neverland if I find it. That is the thing. But overall, this is just something I wanted to just say. My opinions. Neverland, haven't seen. Also, I love how I'm repeating myself constantly. Anyway, lastly, this is the ending closing points. Neverland, haven't seen. I don't know if it's good or bad. The Michael Jackson movie or biopic, I also haven't seen, but I've heard reputations that it's bad. The Michael Jackson the verdict documentary that I saw in review that you commented on, I like because of how they show it. Is there a case that some of the facts could be incorrect? Probably. That's how documentaries work. Do I think Michael Jackson has an interesting past? And I see interesting as a interesting, not interesting. More of a bad interesting. Definitely. Am I going to say that I still listen? Yeah, I still listen to his music. He's dead by this point. I probably should feel bad by listening to his music, and that's probably not a good thing, but yeah. It does help that he's dead. I don't think he gains the money for it. But I probably should still stop listening to it anyway. I don't listen to it as much. The only one I somewhat listen to is somewhat Thriller and The Man in the Mirror. Also the other one, which is like, I think it's like Black and White, which is the only three songs I kind of listen to. Also, for a bit of background, I didn't know Michael Jackson until after he died. Hence why I grew up with him even knowing that, which is probably bad. But yeah. I hope you enjoy. I hope you like this video, and good night.